Everyone, it is the 1st of June 2026. This is a Tac0 admin. There are two things I want to cover today. First of all is a continuation of a video I uploaded yesterday regarding intelligence quotient, IQ. There's something I need to clarify for people who are listening to what I said. When I talk about IQ, I talk about it as a pragmatic construct. I talk about it as an idea which explains variance. Okay, so we imagine that we've got a hectare of land, and what's happened is that we've created this measure that we've decided that we're going to make decisions on. Okay, and this measure, it can measure half of the content of that land. Okay. But if it can only measure half the content of that land, it's not of any use to us because of what is the decision-making power that we've given to this measure. It needs to have, extraordinary claims need to have extraordinary evidence, which IQ cannot provide. And what we end up with is that you have the rest of that land being unmeasurable, okay? And that's what I mean when I make this reference to the window in which, say, a sensor or a measuring apparatus can measure. And I use the expression of ultraviolet light. Does this thing pick up things in the ultraviolet range? Does this thing pick up things in these different wavelengths? Now, what I'm worried is that people will hear that and they'll think of what I'm talking about as talking about scores on the extreme ends of IQ. And that's not what I'm talking about at all. Okay? I want people who have a background in social sciences to think of it as like a regression output. Okay? Like, this is how much of this variable explains this other variable. Okay? This is how much of the variance is explained. So because of that, we're talking about encapsulating the measurement at any stage of that measurement process. Okay? We're talking about capturing the variance so we can measure it. So strictly speaking, when I use this metaphor, we don't know what parts of that hectare are being measured and what parts of that hectare are not being measured. It could be one clump together, which is completely continuous, or it could be a big patchwork of different clumps, but we wouldn't even know if we're encapsulating, if we're measuring 50% of the variance in IQ or not, okay? We wouldn't be able to know. There's hubris in having these very large constructs, these very broad measures. The biggest danger with IQ, and you see this from right-wing psychologists and right-wing intellectuals, is because they want to have a very structured society and they want to have a very stable hierarchy, and they want people to fit into this very neat social system that they conceptualize. They need people to have positions of power and authority based on merit, but that's not merit in their ability to perform. They tend to look inwards. They tend to look for immutable characteristics which lead to a hierarchy. And one of those things that they like is this concept of general intelligence, because that means that we can have this string of people where the people at the bottom of society deserve to be there because of intrinsic characteristics, and people at the top of society deserve to be there because they are great men. And you'll see this particularly with the way Jordan Peterson talks about men like Elon Musk and these other billionaires who are just evil, sadistic fuckwits. Okay? They are terrible men, but when we start talking about IQ and these things, it latches on to this fascist or proto-fascist narrative. This is a very appealing narrative to people who have existential anxiety, people who are just generally anxious about the world because it gives a nice structure to it. It makes people who feel as if they've been given a bad lot, who are themselves feel like they're very smart, like those Nietzsche kind of people, are feeling as if they should be somewhere where they're not. Like, the truth is that society is nothing close to that ordered. Power does not function in a responsible way. People do not get power because they are the best at wielding it or they have the best intrinsic qualities. People end up with power because of a whole bunch of different chaotic things which are going on, and that's largely because of the stimulus that they've been exposed to, and just the random luck of the draw to be put on a path where they have power. Okay? Now that's the main thing I wanted to talk about. I'm going to continue on and I'm going to talk about my experience of being oppressed. Right? So when I started making these videos, when I moved to Canberra, I was a young person and I'm not young anymore. Like, what has happened to me has been, I've had the most important years of my life stolen from me, and have the remainder of those years also stolen from me. And I'm going to describe some of the abuses that I've been subject to, because what happens when you're marginalized is that you have groups of people who gang up on you and you don't end up having supports. So when you go to the hospital, when you go to the doctor, when you go to the psychologist, if you are a person who, for whatever set of characteristic reasons, finds themselves as an undesirable, untouchable, or other kind of person, which I am, because I'm going to let you know, if you're male in psychology, you are fucked. The discrimination I've had to deal with has been terrible, but it happens very quickly in mental health. Okay, so I have seen 2 different psychologists since I've moved to Canberra. The first psychologist I met was around, 3 or 4 years ago, and that was myself talking to her because I had just finished up work at IPAR. I had been required to do some illegal things, and I was finding that the quality of psychs in the workplace was just shit, and they wouldn't know that they're shit. And so I went to this fucking psych, and she doesn't know any of the intricacies of what's going on. She's just said, hey, I think have you reported yourself to APRA for having lost your job at VOC Rehab? It's like, you want me to have to go to our national agency and explain to them this very long history of fake qualitative research, all the incentive programs behind it, and you want me to do this and take on this massive bureaucracy, which I ended up having to do, right? Where they've got all these defenses, and I've come to you for fucking counselling to try and alleviate my psychological suffering, and you're now not only saying maybe you should have done this, because she didn't know any of these things. She thought it was because I was shit, which I wasn't. And I'm going to let these people know that I'm never going to work in VOC Rehab again, because the scrutiny I'm under and the amount of illegal shit I'd be required to deal with is just far too much. Right? The scrutiny I'm under is impossible. No psychologist would be able to practice with the level of scrutiny I'm under, because every minor error is an opportunity for someone with sadistic motives to turn into a big thing, and and the amount of unethical shit that the average psychologist does in their given work week, particularly in an institution such as vocational rehabilitation or the NDIS, would be enough for me to be criminally charged with something. It's very corrupt, guys. It's very corrupt. It's just that the person who started talking about how corrupt it was, and then I got singled out, right? So I had this issue with this woman, right? And her thing was just, oh, you got fired, therefore you need to fucking tell APRA. It's like, no, you fucking don't, you dumb bitch. You're looking for an opportunity to be sanctimonious, and the way that psychs are trained on ethics is just how to be as bitchy and as pretentious as possible. So that's my first time dealing with a psych in Canberra, where I've gone for help. The next time was court mandated because my sister made me legally insane. And not court mandated, so this was mandated by ARPA. And I went to see my psychologist, and because I've been stopped from working, because in any form whatsoever, because I'm being gang stalked, right? So I can't fucking work, because I'm not safe, guys. I haven't been safe for a long time. I wasn't safe the moment I touched down in Canberra and was being raped by these sadistic and evil men associated with Signals who need to be put to justice, right? What then happens is that I then went to this other psychologist at Open Arms, and she then fucking tells the reports I write, what I say to her, then gets passed on to several different people. So there is no privacy in anything I do. Every time I go to a counsellor, I get sat down and mind raped, right? And remember, I'm fucking at this current moment registered as a provisional psychologist. I have practiced as a psychologist. I understand how to do counselling in these things. Like, this shit is just hella unethical. But they don't give a fuck. Psychologists are bad people. You should not trust them. There is nothing, there's nothing sacred, or there's nothing good about a person who happens to be in a helping profession. It just means that they get paid to deal with you when you're vulnerable and can do all kinds of things to hurt you. And this woman, she then publicizes information from my fucking thing, passes it on to people in the military, and I'm constantly in this fucking state of rape, of being raped and being controlled and being abused by these healthcare professionals. So that's the second time that happened. The third time it happened was by Peter Henry when I was uninvoluntarily incarcerated, right, at the adult mental health unit. And then they put me into this different wing, which was meant to be like a resort or something, to just relax or something. And during that time, I have these psychs pretending to be speech pathologists come in and try and do the worst attempt ever at an IQ test, which is what they did is that they asked for suburbs of Canberra. So it was just, oh my God, the lack of transfer validity. So I'm constantly being prodded and provoked. Oh, and Peter Henry visited me while I was in there as well, right? So I've got this situation, and the worst thing is that I then have to reach out to my abusers, and I need to negotiate with my abusers for better treatment. So I have to pretend there's some legitimacy to deplorable conduct by people such as Peter Henry, or my sister, who is part of the reason I've been in this terrible situation. And even to an extent, Michael, before I realised what an absolutely disgusting, deplorable shit that man is, right? Now, this long line of abuses means that I get said, people point to me and they're like, hey Matt, right, you seem to have mental health problems or something. Like, you seem to not be doing well. The only thing that I'm facing is lack of finances, which I can't get because I've been stopped from working. Okay? Right? If you can't work because you've been gang raped, because you're being gang stalked by the Australian Signals Directorate, the Army Corps, the Signals System, the fucking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community, vocational rehabilitation, because I put a workers' comp thing in because they actively, so they could pay out and give me the fucking healthcare I needed, right? After I had been wounded and badly abused, the people I go to then for that system to get help then also abuse me, right? So there isn't any help. There isn't any healthcare, right? It's just a long fucking treadmill of oppression and abuse. And so, because I was facing these extraordinary problems, right, and we haven't even talked about the criminal behaviour at Humanity Health Group and them creating fake job advertisements and actively trying to kick me out of the industry because I called them out on their criminal conduct, right? After they had already started that process of marginalisation. right, is we've ended up in this situation where I'm then required to do political work. So because I was making these videos, because I'm in such a desperate situation, I ended up, oh, there's some kangaroos here. I ended up involving myself in politics calling on politicians for help because of how desperate and horrific my plight is. And I find that I'm then exploited by these fuckers, right? Like, they don't fucking help me, right? I've been exploited by the Labor Party. I've been exploited by the fucking Independents. I was fucking exploited by the Australia Institute, right? All these people who pretended to be my friends at different points in time. I still can't monetize my channel because I'll just come up with some other reason for it because the government has latched onto me and decided that I must suffer, right? But it's really fucking strange because I'm then required to engage in international diplomacy, right? Like, so I've had 2 instances where Australia's international diplomacy has been bungled because of the abuse that I receive, okay? So the first instance, so because I'm forced to live in poverty, right? I don't choose this, guys, right? I've been stopped from working in any fucking context, right? I was being used to fulfill a role of diplomacy with the Nigerians. So I had these Nigerian diplomats at different points trying to get to know me. Not Nigerians, I think it was Kenyans. Sorry, that's a horrible slip. Because I was friends with a Kenyan YouTuber, right? And I remember this point where this guy was trying to get to know me, and I had to give him fucking directions or some shit, but I couldn't fucking use my phone because the data had been taken up and I couldn't afford to pay for more data. And then I get hassled by a person from DFAT or fucking ASIS or something who's like, hey man, you need to make sure you know directions because you fucked up our diplomacy. I didn't fuck up your diplomacy. You're fucking making me live in poverty and then expecting me to engage in these diplomatic duties, right? I then had this other issue with my good friend Johan. His father, I think because of his association with me, although there could be 1,000 other reasons, got a job as a diplomat to Australia. And I can't fucking engage in diplomacy with the Colombians and take them to these dinners and shit because I'm fucking broke because you guys made me broke. And then at the same time, I've been required to conduct this massive education system, maintain this communications relay, and had to address multiple national crises because I happened to be the most fucking trained and smart guy in the room at the time, and these duties have fallen to me to fucking deal with. Oh. So I fixed them, right? And then, of course, I can't get paid. And everyone's like, hey, Matt, fucking good on you. All this national service, it's a real fucking privilege, isn't it? You fuckers are raping me. My politicians are fucking raping me, right? My government is terribly abusing me. Why the fuck would you think I'm a good person to do diplomacy through? I fucking hate this country, right? Have you paid attention to the extent of exploitation I fucking suffered while living here, right? You want me? You want me to fucking serve more? Go fuck yourself! Oh, have a good day, everyone.